Hey guys, this is a special bonus episode of Millennial Farmer. This is actually an audio recording of one of our Off the Husk podcasts that we did recently with my dad, Nate. We talked a lot about the farm's history, our family history, what he went through in the 70s and 80s with livestock and the 80s farm crisis here in the U.S. And we had a lot of good laughs in there as well. So this is a podcast that I host with my wife, Becky, Mrs. Millennial Farmer, and my good friend, Randy, also known as the Master Pipe Layer. He's been in a few videos. We have several podcasts out there now. If you're interested, you can check out Off the Husk on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. There isn't much on there now, but we do have plans soon to include videos of the podcast on there that we will have there. And also you can check out Off the Husk wherever you get your podcasts. Whatever platform you use, it's on all of them. So check out Off the Husk. Hopefully you guys enjoy this, and thanks for listening. Also, a quick note, well, this episode of Off the Husk is relatively PG. Do know that many of the episodes are not relatively PG, so I'll leave it up to the parents out there to decide whether or not you want your kids listening to the show or not. Check it out for yourself. You make that decision. Thanks again.
I'll mute my phone.
Just some usual technical difficulties.
So the levels are good?
Go on.
Yeah, we're going.
We checked that?
Yep.
This is a podcast I think a lot of people have been waiting for.
Yeah.
What is this podcast?
This Off the Husk podcast, sponsored by Farmers Business Network.
And
That's what this podcast is. Greg, are you leaving? The dogs are barking like crazy. Greg must be leaving.
He gave us a beer and he left.
He did. He brought us all a fresh beer and he left. Greg is a good man.
So everyone's asking who the guest is.
The guest is Nathan Johnson. He's a farmer from right just east of where I sleep in the yard here.
30 feet.
30 feet, yeah. This would be my dad, the fourth generation Johnson farmer, if that made any sense.
That's right. It'd be the fourth generation. Yep.
You would. See, I are good at math. But the interesting part is that, so when I tell people, I always tell people I'm fifth generation family farmer. But really, I mean, I am fifth generation family farmer, but when you look at our family farm, we skipped like a half generation, kind of, right?
Kind of, yes. My dad actually started farming, and he didn't farm very long, and he got sick and passed away.
Yep.
I believe he probably farmed about 2 years, is about it, with my grandfather.
Right. So, but he grew up on the farm.
He grew up on the farm,
Yep.
Yep. He grew up here, just like you did, grew up here farming with your dad.
How old was your dad when he passed away?
My dad, the one sitting here between us?
No, Nathan's dad. Sorry, looking at the wrong person.
Yeah, you better get that straight, yeah. I'm not even sure. I think he passed away in 1960.
So he was in his 20s?
In his 20s,
Early
yes.
20s.
Yep,
No,
early. Well,
I think it was late
maybe
20s.
mid-20s.
Because he was in the service, correct?
He was in the service, yep.
And then came back and
Oh,
farmed.
so he went to
Yeah.
war. That's why he didn't get to farm, because he went to war. Okay,
yep. And
sure.
came back to farm and got married and had a baby, and
Yep.
then he got sick.
Had a baby,
not too
it's
long
boy.
after that.
Had a baby, it was
So
a boy.
you never knew him then, or never got to
No,
know
I
him?
really never knew him. I was 2 years old when he passed away.
2 years? Okay.
Yep.
But then you still grew up on the farm. A farm.
Yeah, I actually grew up on a different farm. After he passed away, my mother went back to nursing school, and she ended up meeting somebody that was a farmer. And I grew up in southern Minnesota on a farm with my stepdad, or I always called him my dad, because he's the only dad I knew.
Right.
And he farmed with his brother, and then I had some cousins that got into it. And so I grew up in a farm, just not in this area, about 180 miles south of here.
So then what brought you back 180 miles north, back to the farm where you were born?
Well, I guess I always wanted to make sure I could farm by myself. I always kind of wanted to do it and make sure I was able to do it and make
Get
the
out on
calls
your own.
myself. And it was my dad and his brother and had a couple cousins getting in. So there were a few people down there, and I had the opportunity up here because my grandfather owned the land. And so
because Grandpa, my great-grandpa, still owned the
still
family
owned the farm.
The farm we're on today.
Yep. After my dad passed away, Vertus passed away, my grandfather ran it for another year or two. Excuse me. And then after that, the guy that had worked for him took over and ran it for a few years. And and there had been 3-4 different people ran it, and then I came back in 1982, so about 22 years after I left here.
After you left here. So we've got a 22-year gap in there where technically it wasn't farmed by family.
Okay, so they had rented it out or somebody else was farming it in that
they
time
rented
frame.
it out.
Okay.
The whole, yep.
But your grandpa still lived here?
He didn't live on the farm. He lived in Lowry.
Okay.
He actually kind of did the same thing that I've done now with Zach. He moved away from the farm, and my dad and mom moved on to the farm.
Okay, sure. So who lived here on this farm then in that time frame?
Well, it was one of the guys that rented the farm for a while, lived here for several years.
Okay.
And then before we moved here, actually nobody was living here. I don't know what happened. They were remodeling the house and getting ready to move here, and something happened, I think. And,
okay.
And so the house actually sat empty for a few years before we came back.
Okay, before you'd come back and.
Yep.
Okay. And that's a different house than the one we're in now.
Yes, that was a house. It was built in 1906, I believe.
Okay.
The old house was a brick house, and we looked at remodeling, and it wasn't worth it. So my grandfather was born in 1900, so he was 6 years old, and he moved half a mile from the farm where he was at to the new house here.
Which would be what we know as the South Quarter?
Right, yep, I believe so, yep.
Yep.
Okay. Where did the house sit in accordance to this house then?
Just north of this house, about 10 feet.
Yeah.
Oh.
So when they were building this house,
Yep.
I remember you could sit on the living room couch and look out the window, and it was like right out the window I'm pointing at back here. It was right there.
Just missed the house.
Yep.
Yeah, we built as close to it as we could.
Okay. What year was that?
98.
1998 is when we moved into this house, I think.
Yep.
Okay. So in 1998, how did you know to put a podcast room in the basement? How did you know to build that?
That was really good foresight.
It was good foresight. I thought, if I ever move off, I wonder if my kids would ever
Start
want to
a
have
podcast.
a podcast room in the basement.
Yeah.
Plus, I thought I could use it as a theater room in the meantime.
Yeah.
So it was easy to talk my wife into it.
I
need
bet.
to build a podcast room.
Yep.
But for a little while, I can use it for a theater room for about 15 years first.
That was well played. I didn't see that question coming. That was pretty good. So you moved up here. You talked Mom into moving up here. What was that like? Did you have to trick her? Did she know you weren't coming home for a while?
And you guys were babies, by the way. Well, she was anyways.
We were pretty young. I think when we actually moved here, I was 23, but the fall before I came up and did the fall tillage up here. We didn't live here, and then I was 22 years old.
You came up and did the fall tillage knowing
that we were coming up here. We got married in 1981, and we went on our honeymoon.
And she was 18 or 19?
She was 19 when we got married.
So you were robbing the cradle.
Not
quite.
3 years.
He was 19 and a half.
Yeah. But anyway, on our way back home from the honeymoon, we came here. I wanted to show her my grandfather's farm, and so we came up here and we talked to them for a while, and we went home and talked about it for several months, and talked to my grandparents to see if they'd be interested in renting it to us, and they seemed pretty excited to do that. So we ended up moving back up here.
So the fall you came up and did the tillage, then did you stay in the empty house then, or did you stay at your grandparents?
I stayed in the grandparents' house in Lowry. Yep.
Just went there.
Yep.
So what'd you have for equipment?
Well, luckily, my dad down there at Jackson, or his stepdad, him and his brother had an implement dealership.
Okay.
And so we were able to get some machinery. Actually, farming had already kind of taken a downturn, in probably 79 or 80. It started going down, and machinery got a little bit cheaper. And down there, I actually had livestock. I always enjoyed livestock. I had livestock when I was in high school, and then when I got out of high school in 1977, there were a lot of livestock facilities. Dad and Kurt owned several farms. So we had livestock on 4 different farms then. And I kind of managed livestock. I owned half the livestock, and they owned half, but I basically did the work with the livestock and then helped them out in the field too. So I had some livestock equipment, a fair amount of livestock equipment.
Okay.
And this was cattle and hogs?
Cattle and hogs both, Yep.
Did you bring any livestock with you?
I fed cattle up here for several years after we moved up here.
Did you actually move the herd up, or did you start over?
Nope. We bought feeder cattle in the fall.
Okay.
We chop silage by the feeder cattle and then sell fat cattle in the summer.
Yep.
So.
Okay. So it wasn't a cow-calf operation.
No, we did have cows down there, but I didn't bring any cows with.
Okay. Yep.
So, and we had hogs down there. I always enjoyed cattle a lot more than hogs, so
Okay.
we just stuck with cattle when we got up here for a while.
So it wasn't like the equipment was up here. You could come up here and borrow
No.
Grandpa's equipment and start.
No, there was no equipment at all.
You had to figure out how you're gonna get equipment,
Yep.
tractors.
My
the
grandfather was 82 years old when we moved up here, so he was
okay.
still around, but couldn't really help, and he couldn't get in
Right.
a tractor then.
Was he renting the farmland out for quite a while to other people before you came here?
Yeah, yep. My
22
dad
years.
passed away in
Okay.
62, so then I think he farmed it for 2 or possibly 3 more years. And then it rented
Okay.
it out for that long.
Okay.
For anybody that's listening, I have to apologize because sometimes I ask questions that might sound like we're just talked about, but I'm looking at 3 different screens sometimes, and sometimes I'm not listening 100%. So I do want to apologize. So I'm trying to watch comments and then the actual podcast audio and all that stuff.
Did we decide to bring the fact that we are right now live on YouTube? Did we decide to bring that information onto the podcast?
Yeah, so this podcast is actually being aired live on YouTube as we speak. Yeah, 500 people are listening live right now.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
508 to be exact, but who's counting?
And I'm sure most of those 500 probably have rooms full of people also listening, so it's probably like 10,000.
Yeah.
Yep.
And this new app that we're trying out, it's a beta app, allows us to receive comments, and we can actually accept phone calls, which we may or may not try. We'll see.
We're going to wait till the end before we try it.
Yeah.
If we're gonna,
but it's
yeah.
a work in progress
Yep.
for us.
Yep. So I want to go back to Dad here, or as some people call him, Nate. But you moved up here. You moved into the old farmhouse. You brought Mom up.
Yep.
What were her thoughts? Because she didn't grow up on a farm.
No, she grew up in town and always lived in town. And I think at first she was a little concerned if she'd like it here.
Could have moved to Lowry, Minnesota.
Yeah.
Not even. Like,
And
this is suburbs of Lowry.
And you guys moved into an old farmhouse, right?
We did, yeah. Well, yeah, it was built in 1906, so I suppose, yeah, it was almost
It was old.
close to
It
80
was
years
old, it
old.
was
Yeah.
old.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. And I told her probably within 5 years we'd be building a new house. And
Did you tell her that?
yep, I think I told her that. So we stretched it a little bit. And,
I'll bet 3.5 years in, you were like, oh, shit.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
we're at a good time to build a house. So it's a good thing I came up with our kids need a podcast room, so we better build a house.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But where's Zach going to do his podcast?
Zach was showing some real potential at the age of 10.
Well, yeah, he was a little older than 10, but not much older when we went to student-teacher conferences, and the teacher told us that we think your son has a good career in Saturday Night Live. This isn't Saturday Night Live, but it's close sometimes.
Do you happen to know which teacher that was?
No, I don't. No.
I wonder if it was the same teacher that told me that I was the worst student she had ever had in 28 years.
I don't think so, because I think this teacher thought it was good.
This teacher actually liked
Yeah,
me.
I think she enjoyed your sense of humor.
It's weird. Like you're the same kid, right? And some teachers love you.
And
Like they still have to punish you at times.
Right.
But they can appreciate
Because it is what it is, but
you
yeah.
for who you are.
Yeah, but then the teacher down the hall is like, I can't stand this kid. Like they just hate you.
They
They're-
really just want to say I hate you, but
Yeah.
they can't because
They
they
can't.
lose their
They
job.
can't. Yeah. So I get it from both sides there, but
Well, I'm now experiencing what it's like to be a teacher with the kids at home, and I cried 2 days ago, and it's an awful experience, and I owe our teachers a lot better appreciation gifts at Christmas and Thanksgiving and Easter and their birthday and all of the above, because
you know what's amazing that I've learned?
Onyx is a real jerk.
The
The worst student I've ever had in my 2 weeks of teaching.
Out of all 3 of your students.
Well,
Yes.
if I must say so, I think he's got a career on Saturday Night Live, Becky.
So,
yeah.
Aurora,
Yep.
is this our senior year?
Yes.
Yes. She's
Yep.
a
So-
senior right now. Yeah.
So what are they doing
she's-
for the seniors?
I think we just kick them in the nuts and say good luck.
Some moms organized some signs to put out along the drive in Barrett, which I'm sure lots of people will see on their way to the school.
Right.
As Greg is streaking by on his way to the pavilion.
But are they still doing school?
Yeah, they're
senior?
They're just
They're
like
getting assignments
she's
yet?
got Google Classrooms, and
they do.
Zoom meetings with their teachers.
Is that what she's doing down in the bedroom every day until noon?
Yeah.
Until
Yep.
noon.
Yeah.
I would assume to the seniors it was pretty much.
Yeah,
we'll mail you your diploma.
Well,
it's that way when you are a senior and you're going to school.
Yeah.
Like you just have to continue showing up.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh,
Somebody's crying upstairs. I'll
Yep.
go. You continue.
We keep going?
Yep.
All right.
Well, we're at moving up here, young, just married.
Oh, we were talking about mom didn't grow up on a farm.
Yep, Mom didn't grow up on a farm. And I don't think it actually took her too long here, and she started enjoying the farm and the privacy. And
Okay.
it wasn't a couple, 2-3 years maybe, and I think she figured she wasn't moving back into town or didn't want to.
Okay.
Yeah.
It would have been
can't beat
easier
that.
for her, I
No.
think, if we would have been in a town close to where we grew up
Right.
with some of her friends around instead of 180 miles away. But
Yep.
we were actually really lucky we moved into a good neighborhood. I
Okay.
always a snowmobiler in high school, and we got a bunch of neighbors. We moved right into the right neighborhood, that's for sure. We had a bunch of friends right away that rode snowmobile a lot and
Okay.
did a lot of things with several different people that lived within a couple miles of our place here. So
Okay.
it was really it was easy to move up here and have people like that we moved next to.
Because so you guys have gotten into the dirt racing and the go karts, but you've always been kind of a motorhead.
Been always a gearhead. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Raced snowmobile and drag race motorcycle when I was younger. And
You drag race. I didn't know the motorcycle one.
yeah, not a lot, but we did
Okay.
once in a
Dabbled in
while.
that a little bit. So you had
Yeah.
the big wheelie, the fork out back.
Well,
or?
at that time, just a few of them had that.
Okay.
It was a triple cylinder 2-cycle Kawasaki. So
Okay.
Is that the purple bike?
Yep, the purple bike. I wish I still had it.
I remember the day that got sold. I remember the guy leaving with it.
Yeah.
That's weird because I must have been 6, 7.
Probably. Yep.
Where did you have to go for that?
Let's see. It was South Dakota, past Sioux Falls, Thunder Valley, Marion, South Dakota is where it was.
Oh, okay. So I was, especially back then, it was kind of a haul.
About 100 miles for us from Jackson.
From Jackson.
Oh,
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
We weren't
Yep.
up here yet.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there were 4 or 5 of us went, on some Sundays, and we'd go and we'd always get there early. A lot of guys went the night before, and you could see they'd partied in the parking lot or in the street to get in.
Okay.
You can see.
Yeah, you could tell.
There were
You could tell
visible
by
signs?
The empty kegs and the glasses around it. I just assumed that's what they were doing. So if we would have stayed in it longer, we probably would have been there too. But we had parties back at Jackson where I grew up.
Well, luckily, I just grew up around the dirt tracks where nobody parties.
Not at all.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. And the go-kart track where just the parents partied.
Yes, yes.
Kids afterwards went and played on the gravel mounds.
Yeah, we play on the gravel mounds until 2, 3 in the morning or whatever.
Whatever it is.
It gave the parents a little time to load up the carts afterwards.
Yeah, right. They got to have 6, 8 hours to load up.
So when did the go kart start then?
95.
Was it 95?
95 was the first year I raced,
Okay.
which meant it would have been, I believe, 94 then when we started going to the track some. Because I started hounding him about it.
Oh,
Was it
so
because-
that was my next question: is how did that start?
Well,
Was it because of Campbell's?
Oh no, we bought our cart from them. We didn't know them before that, but like Al Lang and Snyder, there's guys I raced snowmobile with before. We went up there.
Okay, so you had a little connection that way.
Yeah, I knew they had the go-kart races up there, and we went up there, and all of a sudden, here's some guys I'd raced with, and it's kind of funny, the racing family, it was 45 years ago when I started racing, and now it's the same families.
It's
some
the
of
same
them.
people.
Same
yeah.
family.
Yeah,
still in
different
it.
generations. Some of them are in their 3rd generations now, and we noticed that when we went back to the go-kart track with Onyx this year.
Yeah.
You
Half
know,
of them are the same
Same
people we've
people.
known
Yeah.
for.
It's grandpas
I've known
now.
my whole life
Yeah.
because we've been around the racing scene.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I don't
Yep.
know if it had to do with the same timing or not, but that was when William, my friend at the time, had come from, he moved from the West Coast out to here, and he had cousins that raced go-karts. And I don't know if there was a tie there or not. I mean, we'd always been into racing and stuff, but that was the year we started going to the go-kart track to watch, and then we ended up buying one of their carts, and that's when I got into it the following year.
I think I had been asking people who had carts for sale.
Okay.
And they probably led me towards John Campbell because
Probably.
Did he have 3 carts maybe and
Yeah.
2
Well,
kids
he had
running then? And
2 kids running at least. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
and then the go karts just progressed into a B mod. I'm
Yep.
assuming or
Into a B mod.
Yep.
Then into a
Into a dirt
mod,
track.
and then into a
Yep.
B mod
Okay.
and a mod and a late model.
you ran 3 cars.
I ran,
At one point?
I ran 3 cars at one point, yeah, but we didn't own the late model ever when we ran all 3, right?
No.
Yeah, so it
We
was,
had
it was
the
a
mod
guy
and
from
B mod.
And
Alexandria
that was
that owned
only
the late
for what,
model.
like half a year that you
Well,
did
not
that?
even. It was 5 shows.
Okay.
Just
4 or
special-
5 shows.
Basically, the fall specials.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
So
that's
the
what
big
I'm saying.
races.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
To run
And then
that.
so then the next year we sold the B mod and bought that late model. So then we were mod and late model.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you did a brief stint with snowmobiles. How did that come about?
Not too brief, was
yeah.
it?
Well, it was a year and a half,
Is that all it
maybe
was?
2 years.
1 year,
Um,
probably full time. In the year before that, you ran somebody else's sled.
I ran somebody else's
Yeah.
sled as a rookie. Yeah.
How did that come about? Did you know?
Well,
did you know some of the players' guys or?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. We knew we had friends, and one of them works for Polaris, and
Okay.
and so he had connections, and he'd gotten me race sleds before, and then got Zach a race sled, and
Okay.
And you
so we were
raced
going-
And Dad
snowmobiles
raced sleds
and
for-
motorcycles, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you run 10 years at least on sleds?
No, well, I actually
Off
never
and
ran
on.
a full year. Yeah, probably off and on.
Yeah. You pick
and
and
then
choose.
took a couple years off, and then I ran for actually maybe 2 years after we moved up here.
Oh, you did
We
still run.
moved
You're up here
Yeah.
too.
82 and
Okay.
took probably 2-3 years off and started again.
I do
Okay.
have a memory of at least one of your snowmobile races.
Okay.
I don't remember anything about it, but it's in there.
Yeah, I don't remember you really going along to any of them.
Yeah. I remember being there with Mom for
Did-
one of them at least.
Did you YouTube
Okay.
it? Maybe saw it on YouTube.
I didn't. Yeah. No, the GoPros back then were just awful. They were terrible.
I put it on
Carried it
YouTube,
on your
but
shoulder.
nobody else was on there yet.
Yeah. You had all the views.
Yeah.
Yeah, both of them.
We had a good question roll through. Is now a good time for a question?
Yeah.
Hit us with a question.
Somebody asked, does Nate ever get annoyed or mad with Zach about filming for his YouTube channel?
I'll just cross that off my list here and let him go with it.
What have you thought of
not
this all?
really. Maybe we should go back to
weird
the
guy
very
I was
first
gonna
time
say
you did
at the
that.
beginning
first
you
time?
had to
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah, maybe a little bit, but
What are you
I think
doing?
it was a Sunday morning. Zach came out and he had the kids with him, Onyx and Rhiannon. And it was Sunday morning. We weren't working, and he came out and said, "Well, I think I'm going to wash a truck, and I'm going to take a video of it." And I said, "A video of it?" Yeah. He said, "Have you seen YouTube? You know what that is?" Yeah, I know what that is. So I'm going to wash a truck and put it on YouTube. And, well, who's going to want to watch a farmer wash an old truck? That's kind of crazy. Nobody's going to want to see that.
Right.
But he said, well,
Yeah.
he's got some relatives and family members that really don't understand farming and probably should see life a little better. And I thought, well, he's trying to do a good thing. We got a dirty truck. The truck's going to get washed. Grandkids are here. I'm going to play with grandkids.
Have at it.
This is a great
Have at
idea.
it.
Sunday morning, we're not doing anything. So
Wash the
let's
truck.
get a clean truck. And we got a clean truck out of the deal.
You know what you should do tomorrow? You should wash a combine and put it on film.
I'll bet twice as many people would watch that. So I get asked about that every time I give a public talk. Every time somebody asks, what does your dad think about this, or the people that are around doing it? And my answer, I think, is always, I know that you were hesitant in the beginning, but I also made sure in the beginning to let you know, like, I had to make sure you were okay with it, because this is our farm. This is where our family lives. And so if I'm going to be taking videos of this,
Everybody has to be a part.
everybody has to know. I will not, if anybody has a problem with me doing this, I won't do it.
And you've made that clear all along. If you don't like it, I won't do it.
Yeah.
And I spent 8 or 9 years in the Corn Growers Association, the state corn growers, and that took a lot of time. And basically, in a way, we're doing the same thing. We're trying to promote ag.
Right.
It's completely different ways. But
That's exactly.
This is something Zach can do right in the tractor cab, right home. I know.
Yeah.
Well, one time in the Corn Growers, I got done combining, and I was supposed to be in Fargo that night for a ethanol meeting. So I drove the combine in the shed probably about 3 o'clock, hurried up, showered, took off for Fargo, and I made the meeting at 7 o'clock that night. And I think I was in meetings for about 4 months after that, and the combine sat dirty in the shed, but at least it was in the shed.
Right.
Yeah.
Stuff it in the shed. Yep.
Yep.
If I could have just taken a video of washing the combine, it would have had a clean combine. And still promoting ag.
Yeah.
But that exactly what you said there is the answer that I give people is that, you were active on the Minnesota corn growers for several years. That was your way of advocating for agriculture. This is my way right now of advocating for agriculture, which I'm also active with corn and soybean growers on a much smaller scale than what you were.
But you're making much more difference and impact.
Well, they're just different things, So I'm not achieving what the corn and soybean growers associations are doing. I mean, we're doing different things.
Yeah.
Those organizations have to be in place to accomplish the things that they're doing. And what I'm doing is something totally different, but it's just what fits me right now. It's just two different ways of advocating for the industry.
You're getting a different audience, which we need all the audiences. So you're getting that audience,
Right.
which in turn is helping the corn growers
Yep.
if they're doing some political
Right.
things that they need help.
Right.
And all of a sudden people say, yeah, I know what a farm is. I've seen it on the videos.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we need everything. And I think for what you're doing now, you keep doing what you're doing. I know it'd be nice if you'd spend time with corn and soybean growers, but I think you're doing more good where you're at right now because there's other people that can work with the corn and soybean growers.
Yep.
And when it comes to the corn and soy boards, I'm still active on the county board, but even at the state level, I mean, I know half those people there, at least in this state, so, and it's not, I wouldn't be surprised if I did more at the state level with one of those organizations at some point. But
At
right
some
now,
point,
no.
but
So don't call me on that.
You're reaching far more people this way.
Yeah, this is what I have to stick with right now.
Yep.
Some people are better at, some people excel at different things, right? I mean, you're really, I not to toot your horn or anything, but it seems like you're pretty good at what you do. I mean, as far as the YouTube channel goes.
I thought she was going to say super good looking.
Does she toot your horn often?
Not since we got married.
Oh, you guys.
I couldn't resist. So one question I had was, so what was the first big thing that showed up on the farm from the YouTube? Probably the Challenger?
Oh, you getting into equipment? How
Yeah.
the YouTube has changed the actual farm?
Just how how the YouTube is
Yeah, and I would say the Challenger is still probably the biggest.
still probably the biggest. So what was your
I mean, we had the 780 combine. Hold on, I know what you were just going to ask
Yeah.
him, and I got a story that I would tell you to lead into that. So the 780 was a huge thing having that John Deere combine last fall, but the Challenger, for whatever reason, like the YouTube channel loved that Challenger.
the Challenger is 2 years ago, right?
To fall of 18.
Fall of 18.
Yeah.
And the 780 was fall of 19.
Fall of 19.
Okay,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah.
The Challenger created some good TV drama.
People
That's what
liked
I
it.
like
It
to
stood
call
out,
it.
and I think it's more worldwide too. Well, it can't be more worldwide than
John
Deere, but
no. I think it was
but,
just the drama
the Fendt
effect.
people connect with a Challenger,
Yep,
right?
Yep.
Which is one thing I never would have thought of. Coming from where I am in the upper Midwest of the U.S., you don't think of Fendt,
Right.
but everywhere else in the world does.
Yep.
It was also the first time that something like that had ever been really done in ag, I think, as when you're talking the social influencer world and what that is, when you're talking about Kylie Jenner and that, and being
Are you saying I'm the Kylie
Jenner of ag? Yes, I have said that before. But I
that a
think that it was
compliment?
the first time that something
I'm just
like
looking
that
at
had
Randy's
happened.
face, wondering
say-
what happened to my life.
I would say he's more the what's his name? Caitlyn. He's more the
I'm the
Caitlyn
Caitlyn
Jenner.
Oh, come on, no. But I think a lot
I'm just gonna
of farmers were watching.
punch out and
And
we'll
I
drink
think
some more
a
whiskey.
lot of brands were watching as well. I think companies like John Deere were watching, and AGCO was they were.
The marketing person that AGCO had at the time, her name's Kelly, and she's a badass. But she got it. Like we met her down in Kentucky.
Yeah.
That was the first time we met her.
Right.
And she's pretty cool. But it was pretty awesome to get that out here on the farm.
Remember. So we were at the in Louisville, the
National Farm Machinery Show.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that was the first one we went up to, was the ACO booth, and you were sitting there with the camera like, oh, I feel like an idiot here with this camera, and Casey and I were there with you, and we're like, just go get an interview, go ask for an interview, just tell him you want to take a few, and he's like, yeah, I know, but it's just awkward, whatever. And you go up and ask, and
it was super. It still is super awkward to do something like that at a farm show for me.
But they were right away like, oh, okay, well here, you sign this and sign that. You had to fill out some paper to do it.
They brought me to Kelly then.
Yeah.
And I gave Kelly, we had like makeshift business cards. And I gave her like, here's my phone number, my email, who I am. Like, you can check me out on YouTube. I'm not an idiot or like an 8-year-old with a camera.
Right.
I like, do you have someone that wants to talk about your new Challenger 1000 series tractor? And like, they were all about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, here's what we would like you to do, or sign this, and what's the name of your channel, on and on and on. It was,
They took it, they were the first ones, and they took it more seriously than anybody else I've ever talked to at a show.
Yeah. And throughout that show, for sure, they were the ones that took it more serious. And then something come out of it.
And then he invited you down to do a tour of the factory, which was really cool.
Yep.
It was
fun
cool.
That's right.
And what made it extra cool is that's the town you grew up in then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
They're made in Jackson, right, where I grew up. And actually, the plant now is completely different. It was ag chem before. But I
remember when it was ag chem.
When my dad and uncle had the dealership, the implement dealership, we actually took tractors up there, and they used those for a prototype to make saddle tanks and different things. Oh. So we'd been in and out of there, knew several people that worked in ag chem, actually quite a few people that worked there.
Okay.
You know, it's the same location, different building now.
So back then, ag chem also made, so ag chem is what's Rogators, Terragators, which is now all part of
all owned by AGCO.
It's all the same. But at that time, they made saddle tanks and stuff for tractors?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
We actually had a pull-type ag chem sprayer.
And that was all started in Jackson,
70s,
right?
And, that was all started in Jackson, yep.
I would assume pull types maybe came before the self-propelleds then?
I don't know.
Okay.
The farmers didn't have any self-propelleds then, but the
co-ops and stuff
did, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, so I think they were making them. I'm not sure which came first there.
Were they spray coop, or is that something completely
different?
Nope,
that was different.
That was different.
That was.
Okay.
Yep, they were the Terragators and
okay. Because spray coops was kind of the first of the self-propelled sprayers, I would assume, right?
I don't know if they were. They were a lot smaller.
Spray coops are OGs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. They were completely different. The spray coops were a lot smaller.
Yeah.
Probably not really commercial.
Built to pull behind the pickup.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. But that was kind of the co-ops first had those, and then I remember when they first got like a Rogator, or the first Terragator.
And I actually think ag chem was probably the first one to make like the Terragators, the fertilizer spreaders, and self-propelled sprayers like that.
Okay.
And I think the other companies kind of copied them after that, probably.
That's what started. So who I work for, which is Big Stone Egg Service now, but it was Clinton Egg Service before, and that's what started. That was Gary Dibdahl bought a, I think they were a Big A.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Big A Terragator.
Yeah.
So it was the first of the three-wheeled machines, and it was a liquid boom, and that was back, I think, early 70s. There was a big CRP program had just come out, so he went around spraying for the DNR or for all the CRP land, all the way up to Detroit Lakes, 100 miles north of here, and that's how Clinton Egg got their start.
Okay,
was from that, because they're the first ones other than spray coop or a pickup sprayer. So that was kind of neat.
It was really cool for me to go back there to Jackson and go through the new factory, where I'd been there when they first built their first building.
Started.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Yep.
Yep.
It was cool too, like for me, because I don't get to Jackson that much anymore. Which Jackson was a place that I got to a lot when I was younger.
Because both sets of your grandparents lived there.
They did, yeah.
Nearby.
So, yeah, mom's parents didn't. I don't think they lived there in my lifetime, did they?
Oh yes, yep.
They did.
They did. Yeah, you weren't very old when they moved to New Ulm.
Yeah, because I don't ever remember going to their house in Jackson.
Yeah, I think it was probably about the time you were born. Maybe they moved to New Ulm.
Okay, because I know where it was. I know what house it was, but I don't remember.
2-3 years when we lived here, we went down to Jackson almost every weekend.
Yeah.
Of course, all our friends were other places too, and they came back on the weekends.
Sure. And Jackson from here is how far? 100 miles?
180.
Yeah, it was
180
about
straight
180
south.
to the farm, so probably 170 to Jackson. We lived south
Okay.
of Jackson on the farm.
So
Yep.
it was 2.5 hour drive every weekend.
Yeah, well,
60
probably
Longer
Three?
than that.
sometimes 2 if I was in a big hurry, but usually 3.5.
Depends on-
Well,
it was
depends
never
on
2
if you
hours
had the
with Zach's
Camaro.
mom along, I'll tell you that.
I have a couple things on my list that we'll lead into later. Speaking of Dad trying to drive fast.
You got to backtrack though to
the Challenger.
the Challenger and the social.
So
Yeah, we're
I'm envisioning you stop over Mom and Dad's Sunday morning. Like, hey, Dad, they want to bring us a tractor to use this fall.
Yeah, that's what it
that
was.
was the thing. Okay, so
Good job, Randy.
I remember when our channel first started to gain some traction. Like when the channel went from this was my hobby to try to reach consumers and there's no obligation whatsoever. It's something I do for fun, and that's that. It doesn't go any farther than that. When it started shifting from that to, well, this is kind of getting legitimate. Like, you're getting a lot of views on your videos. Maybe you should put effort into it.
So you came over, it was a Friday, Saturday night, whatever. You came over for cards at our house.
Oh,
And
yes.
you're at our
Yeah,
house,
yeah,
and we're asking you like, so this YouTube thing you're doing, like, how's that going? Like, we started talking a little bit, and you go, well, actually, Becky just found out today.
No, I had
or
known
you had-
a day or two before
Okay.
that, but I
He didn't tell me.
I didn't
right
want to
away.
tell her because
But
I
anyways,
didn't.
you had told us. Actually, I have a check. Like
Like,
I got paid to do
Google
this
shows me what they owe me, and I was like, it's $92.
now. Yeah, I remember that.
And she looked at me like we were rich. What were we going to do with all that? And I was like, well,
But
yeah,
I
I
knew.
know. That's why I haven't told you, because we have a tax problem.
We're gonna owe 20 of these dollars.
But I think it went on for another 2 months, and then I was like, I knew what a social influencer was, because a woman, social influencers they were around for women, I think, before men. You know, the makeup industry, clothing. I mean, women are socially influenced, I think, probably more than men are. And I'm big on Facebook. Have
Probably?
been. Yeah. Okay. We're
probably.
influenced. And I started to like look into it and just dig deeper and deeper, and I was like, holy crap, like, and I started to just like, then I started to get more into it, and I kind of started to push him a little bit, and
And I had a real dilemma with,
I want to say
because he started it as a hobby, and I turned it into a business real
I
quick.
did not want this to
Within-
be a job.
within the first, I don't remember the timeline, but I want to say it was pretty recent to that. I still remember when you told Becky, if you turn this into a job, I will quit
He
doing it.
did say that.
I remember that. If you make this a job, I will stop doing it. This is my hobby. It's not my job.
He did
Well,
say that.
We all say things, you know.
Now we get out of the combine to go make the YouTube video.
I had two things. Yeah, I had two things in my head here. I remember. So she.
So you show when you told
Oh
Dad.
yeah. Okay. So you talked to me and said something about social influencer, and the first thing my brain thought was, that is the dumbest, most millennial bullshit I've ever heard. Like, I can't tell you this because you're my wife, but get out. Like, no. No. I still hate that term, but it is what it is, right? I don't know what
Yeah.
else to call it.
I think.
I guess.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, it's the. I
And
was
you are
just
also
like,
a content creator. I mean, that's your bread and butter, right? You create really
that
good
makes
content.
more sense to me. I
Yeah.
like that one better.
But
Contenter.
Contenter.
contenter?
Contenter.
He's contenting men all over the country.
Let's
while
not
they
go
take-
with. I like
while they
social
take their
influencer
poops.
better than what you just said.
I didn't really like that when the first time I heard it either. Somebody was out here and they're making a video, you're using their product, and they said they're using social influencers. Well, why not just have them make a YouTube about it instead?
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know what to call it at this point other than that. That's
Yeah,
what the
it
world knows it as.
Basically is, but I had never thought of you as that.
Yeah.
Right.
And I still like, ugh, gross. That's just it's a weird term. But anyway, in the same conversation, you were trying to tell me about these social influencers and Like the makeup ladies will get free makeup and get paid to use this and that. And then I think I didn't bring it up to Dad for a month or two. Like, because you and I were going round and round, and I was still trying to figure out, like, I'm not selling makeup.
I was spending hours a day.
I am not selling makeup.
On the
Big
Google.
deal.
Like I was spending hours a day. Like, what is it? How, like, I mean, just going crazy. Like, what do we, because I knew there was an opportunity, but I just didn't know, because there was no thing in ag. You know, there wasn't somebody who you could follow, or, like, it was completely different.
So I started to grasp it a little bit, and then I don't know why I brought it up to you, but I said something about I was trying to explain to you how this maybe could work in the future.
I couldn't see it, but you told me you had your friends, which have the shooting channel or the. Shooting.
Goulds. I brought up Goulds, the Gould brothers, Steve and Aaron.
And I thought, well,
I'm going to write them down as guests for the podcast.
One thing to give some people shotgun shells and maybe guns to try out, but tractors are expensive. Nobody's going to give you a tractor.
It was
giving you a tractor either. But.
It was, Winchester can give somebody a gun. John Deere can't give us a tractor. Yeah. And 1 year later, I was like, oh yeah? But AGCO can.
But just for a month, which is great.
How long do you want it for? Let's not be choosy here. Let's not complain.
That must have been a pretty cool on your part.
It was really cool.
Like,
yep.
We're getting a tractor to use this fall?
Yeah.
Okay.
The whole thing, and then it came from Jackson on top of it. I thought it was pretty cool. And, and I've got a couple cousins who work there.
Okay.
When we went down and toured the plant, we went out for lunch with them. A couple other guys, but a couple of my cousins.
They call you up.
I grew up with in the farm.
You ever heard of this Millennial Farmer guy from Lowry? We're sending a tractor his way.
Well, yeah, that's Nate's boy. He grew up 6 miles away.
So completely off topic, but when we were in Texas at the
sorry, Randy, we don't go off the topic here on this podcast.
Well, have you told your dad when we were in Texas at the Commodity Classic, and we were talking to Greg from
I think
Peterson.
I did it.
Yeah.
And Machinery Pete.
Guy.
Yeah.
So just talking to him,
you called him Greg.
Wow. Yeah.
He called the Machinery Pete Greg.
It's Pete.
Hold on, I'm going to write him down as a guest as well.
The worst part, so we ran into him at the trade show.
Yep.
And
she's about to tell the same story that Randy was going for.
But I couldn't stop calling him Pete.
He's got to get that a lot.
I'm trying to be so professional, and I'm pushing Zach like, we got to talk to him. He's a great person to collaborate with,
Pete.
and I can't stop calling him Pete. And I knew that wasn't his name, but
I think he advertises that though in some of the ads. I think it.
Yeah,
he
kind of has to at this point.
Yeah.
That's what he's known as, right?
Yeah.
He's got to get called Pete every day.
But he's talking. So when he started back in, so that had been 80s, late 80s.
Yeah.
When he's sending out the magazine or
80s,
putting the magazine together.
And he's originally from 40 miles south of here.
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He's from Benson.
Huh.
That's where he originally.
I didn't realize that.
You didn't know that? So all that time that what Randy's about to bring up, he could have just come and delivered.
So he's talking.
books.
He's talking. So he's pushing. He's trying to build this thing. He's putting these magazines together, sending them out, and he remembers back then.
There were two people in Lowry.
The bank,
and a Nathan
and
Johnson.
then this Nathan Johnson. I always got from the beginning of times, and every time I put out, was it every month? It must not have been monthly.
What?
Couple times a year.
Whatever it was. You were a subscriber.
Quarterly, probably.
Monthly.
That's
whatever.
But
But he says, and then
first,
this
and it went
Nathan
online.
Johnson, and Zach's standing like, well, yeah, that's my dad. We had stacks and stacks of your magazines coming through with auction price, tractors auction prices.
Right.
And I never put that together.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool to see him put that connection together.
He was like honestly pumped that Nathan Johnson from 30 years ago was the Millennial Farmer's dad. Like he was pretty.
We also chuckled. So if you don't know, he goes around to auctions and watches auction prices and does little bits on certain tractors, whatever. And Zach was talking about a year and a half ago, there was an auction somewhere close to here.
A mile north of here.
A mile north of here.
Yep.
And you started talking about that auction, and he goes, "Oh yeah, the
He
the
he
whatever
remembered
name.
every piece of
He said-
machinery on that auction.
He said that was on Friday, September the 20th, whatever the date was.
he knew everything about
He
it.
named it. And Becky and I looked at each other and had a little chuckle that a year and a half ago he remembered the such and such auction in Lowry, Minnesota on such and such day, and they sold a such and such tractor.
And he's seen 400 auctions since then.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was
At
quite
least,
amazing.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's
Yep.
also on the list, I think, for the podcast.
I have a list right here. I should tear this to make sure we don't throw this note away. Because a lot of times I make notes during this podcast, and then we end up throwing them away.
Yep.
Because the table becomes a big mess. You can't tell note paper from beer cans sometimes.
So at what point is there going to be a Nathan camera to carry around?
Probably not in this lifetime.
maybe
The next
time.
one.
Yeah, next one maybe.
You know what though, Jim likes that camera way more than he pretends he does.
He does, yeah.
Jim has
Yep.
fun with it. And I've cleared it with him a million times. Like, are you okay with this? Because if you're not, I will not put you on camera.
We
Right.
do need to get him a better Christmas present because he is good. He's good on the camera. He's entertaining and
He's
funny.
good.
And
He likes it. Yeah,
he
he's
does
really
drop the F-bomb a little bit, or
You gotta watch for that. I never realized like how
He's
much
an
cursing
old
goes on in the shop till I turn the camera on and I'm like, wow.
and you don't catch it because he just says it so nonchalantly. It just comes and then and I've missed a couple and then they get aired and I was like, oh, like missed that.
Oh,
I never realized that either till I watched the videos.
And it's hard
funny,
to
isn't
catch
it?
them.
like yeah, no, we don't. I mean, we don't curse that much around here. And then
Brian Brown from Brian's farm videos, he calls them working words.
Working
Working
words.
words.
Working words.
I'm gonna add
That's
him to the
pretty
list
good.
here.
So I was jacking him up on his live stream just a few days ago, and I'd mentioned to him, well, coming up for Off the Husk, and he said, well, it's a 10-hour drive. Don't ask me how I know that. So he's 10-hour drive from here. I didn't realize.
So we could have him here by morning.
Right. That's what I said.
He'd be a fun one.
Yeah.
He is
He's a good
fun.
one. Yeah, I like Brian. Okay, let's get back to some of the history on the farm here. Some people, I get asked this a fair amount. The cattle and the hogs. You had cattle and hogs down in Jackson.
Yep,
You moved up here, you had cattle.
yep.
And then if I have this right, you sold the cattle and got hogs.
I did.
You never had
for-
both at one time up here.
Nope, never had both at one time. I decided to get out of cattle. It was a big investment in cattle, and I had a chance to rent a little bit more ground. I thought I'd rather farm the ground. It's easy to be gone on weekends, but
Yep.
and the barn sat empty for a few weeks, and I thought, might as well put something in there. Hogs always made pretty good money in the 70s.
A few weeks, and
So-
you decided, well, let's take on a few
Needed
hundred
something
animals.
to do, so
Right.
So we partitioned the barn off and set it up for hogs, and I really never got into hogs big. We fed hogs, but I never really got the barn full and never took off. I don't know. It was kind of funny when I was actually in high school. There were 2-3 years there where we made $20 a pig. In the 70s.
In the 70s.
Now guys are making $5 a pig. They just have to feed so many more.
Right.
It's easier for them to feed them. I think
How do
now.
they make money having pigs right now?
All right. I shouldn't say right now,
Yeah.
but before this time, yeah.
Before the
Yep.
COVID.
Well,
Right.
and we should mention too. That's a drink, by the way. She said COVID.
Well, that was just for Greg's episode.
We should. Noel, Greg's been texting me COVID.
Thanks, Greg.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. But this podcast won't come out for roughly 2 weeks till after we
Right.
record it. So things could change between now
Yeah,
and then. We don't know.
I would assume they'll change quite a bit.
Yeah.
Nobody really knows what's going on.
No.
Right, yeah.
Right.
Let's sure hope it changes for the better.
Yep.
Just today, they announced another packing plant shutting down for a little while. So
That's the one in
It's not-
Mankato.
or Worthington.
Oh, Worthington. Is that the other Smithfield one, though?
Well, I don't think Worthington is, but I think they shared some of the employees or some of the same families worked back and
Okay,
forth.
that's
Okay.
what I there was a connection somehow.
When I grew up and we raised hogs, we sold them to Esterville, Iowa, a mill plant down there. And then they closed, and they sent some of their employees. When they closed, they could stay working for them, but they went to Sioux
Oh, but
Falls.
they had to
Some
move.
of them, yeah.
Okay.
And
Yep.
that
But-
Sioux Falls factory was a lot of immigrant workers, so I don't know if they're here on that. What?
If it could have come from overseas.
No.
saying?
Like it's a
Here
packing
on the-
plant, so it's a lot of immigrant workers,
Yep.
and
Like
so
H2A.
There you go.
yeah,
That's what she's looking
H2A.
for.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I'm going for. So I don't know So how does that affect them? Like if they get laid off from their jobs and they're on that H-2A, it's very possible that they're just being sent then to another factory, like your dad was saying, or plant.
Oh, because they'll just move the workers.
I'm wondering if they're part of that H-2A thing, but I don't.
Man, especially in this situation, who knows how they handle that though?
Right. Or if they're here on work visas. Because again, like if they're here on a work visa and then their factory gets closed down, how does that affect their visa? I did
hear that Smithfield Food is still going to be paying all their employees. As of now, they're still going to be paying them, even though they aren't working.
Huh.
Yep.
So,
and I imagine they got on the whatever that program was.
Oh, yeah, they probably did, didn't they? The PPP program?
Yeah. Yep.
Smithfield Foods is maybe too big for that.
Yeah, I don't think they would qualify for that.
Okay.
Way too
yeah,
many
that's right.
employees.
Yeah, it was a small business,
But
whatever.
the processing plants are making really good money right now. And in the grocery stores, pork and beef has gone way up.
Yeah.
And for the farmers, it's gone way down because there's too many animals to process.
Can't push them through.
Yep.
Yep. That's
So
what we
they
were
don't
talking
have
about
to
the
pay to
last
get
little
them.
bit.
But all the hogs you had in the late 80s, early 90s, they're gone, right?
Yep, they're gone. Yep,
okay.
There's still a few in the freezer.
So we don't have to worry about you.
Building's gone and everything. So
Yeah.
I did have maybe not a good thought or maybe not a bad one, but I thought, the price of feeder pigs right now, if the guy had some building sites, you should fill them with pigs. It would help the hog farmers, but corn's cheap.
Yep.
I don't think there'd be anything wrong if you had some buildings you can convert to put hogs in. Do that before something different happens to hogs.
What about, our shop, there's not that much in it tonight.
I don't think there'll be hogs in our shop.
No?
You could clean out one of the upstairs rooms.
Yeah, you could.
There are some empty dairy barns around that a guy could fill it.
Well, interestingly enough, our main shop that people see on YouTube, that was exactly where the hogs were.
Oh,
Yep,
yeah.
The cattle and hogs. Yep.
The cattle and the hogs, yeah. Yeah, that building there. Dad was down south winter, spring of 2013, and I came home from Indianapolis. I was at a race car deal in Indianapolis, and I came home.
Race car deal.
A race car deal.
Yep. That
Convention.
Where are you going with this, Randy?
We'll save that for another podcast.
It was a race car thing.
Right, during the day.
So I come up the driveway getting home from Indianapolis, and, we didn't live here. Becky and I didn't live here at the time. So I suppose, I did, they weren't home, so I was checking in on the place, and I turned in the driveway, and that building was, the roof was clearly inverted.
Yeah.
And I called Dad, the barn, we called it the barn. Because it was the barn at one point, but it,
it was another cold
over
storage
half my
shed.
life at that point. Yeah, it was just a cold storage shed that we had other things in. But
did you have equipment stuff in it?
A little bit, but it only had 10-foot sidewalls, so you couldn't get much
White
in
Lightning
it.
was in there.
The shop truck was in there. The shop truck we still have.
Bean heads are in there.
The bean head was in there.
Was probably in there.
The Moline.
Would guess that
If
was
the
in there.
Moline, Moline had no damage if it was in there.
Yeah, and I think on the ends of the buildings it stood up, right?
Oh,
I'm guessing it might have been parked in
the gable
north
ends
end.
were still standing.
Yeah.
It was the center that collapsed. So we had the shop truck. We had the bean head took the most damage.
Yep.
And didn't get totaled. And I remember, so I brought the insurance guy in because I know why Dad's laughing. The insurance guy came in a few days later, and we walked in the end. Most people would have looked at it and said you shouldn't walk in there, like that thing's coming down anytime. But it was not, right? Like an old building.
It was all propped up. It was down.
It was down. It wasn't coming down. So we walked in there, and he looked at the bean head, and the bean head had a rafter perfectly between every I don't even know what you'd call it on the reel where the
braces.
The braces and the reel. In between every brace and the reel was a rafter, and it was smashed down between every one.
Kinked the reel down every one.
Kinked the reel in every point that it could have. Like that took it the worst by far. And this little insurance guy, he's got a little clipboard and he's writing notes and taking pictures with his little camera. And he's like, so this, he points at the bean head, this isn't normally like this?
Yeah.
No.
They come with rafters in them.
Yeah. Yes.
It helps separate the crop.
Like, no, it's not supposed to be this way. There's a building on top of it right now.
There's convenient creases in the reels, so when your building falls down, it has somewhere to land.
That's a good selling point. If I was deer, they should have sold it that way. But that didn't actually get totaled. We had to replace the reel.
On there.
Put the reel in there.
Yep,
Yeah.
the rest of the head was okay. Probably he wasn't talking about the reel. He might have been talking about the rest of the head.
But they totaled the shed though, right?
Well, yeah,
shed was shot.
That's the reason we have the building
The new
we do
shed,
right now.
yeah.
I'm assuming that was like a 930 or 925 or something.
It was a 925, right?
I think a 920,
25
yeah.
foot.
Because then we went to the 30s. 930s?
And then
630s.
630s,
yeah. From
Oh,
a
okay.
925
I bet
to a
that was a
630.
930 maybe.
Because the sixes
Was it?
then I think is when isn't that when the Hydro Flex came out? Was it 6 years?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
And then we had those for a while. We had 2 of them with that other combine.
Okay.
And then
sure.
now we got the 700 series.
Yep.
But that totaled the shop truck. So we bought it back, fixed a
Fixed
couple
it up.
little things on it, and still have it.
Oh, okay. So that got a salvage title over the deal.
Yeah.
Did it? Yeah?
Yep.
Salvage title?
Okay.
Yep. It's got a salvage title.
I don't own it, obviously.
Yeah.
Value really dropped in that 1990 pickup, 30 years old.
Yeah, the 30-year-old 1990.
It drives about the same. Just terrible either way.
Right.
Shakes a little bit when you get on the brakes and pulls to the right.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's pretty good. Oh, we never got to the fact, why did you drop the livestock?
Well, the cattle, it was a big investment, and there was more land that came up that I could farm a little bit more land. And I figured I'd rather have the land than the cattle.
Yep.
And that's where I just decided to get out of the cattle. And the hogs, I never had really enjoyed hogs that much. I just always had them. And so we had them, and we weren't making a lot of money on them, so I thought, well.
You weren't pulling $20 a head anymore.
No, we weren't. And then, plus we had a pretty good corn crop one year and figured, well, we could probably make more money storing corn in that barn. So then again, we took the hog dividers out and put them on. It was a open-faced barn, three walls and then open on one side. So
Open to the east, yep.
Cement pads or fences on the outside and filled it with corn.
I know Todd, my boss, so the older one. So he had started 78, 81, somewhere in that same time frame. And same thing. So the house, the farm he had moved in, they had a little barn. Well, we might as well throw something in it. So he'd bought some hogs. And he talked about that too, how he had made, I don't remember, $20 a hog or really good money one year. And then, like, man, this is easy, and then the next year, I don't remember what he said. He grossed $1,200 for the year, something off the hogs. And then the next year it was a little of nothing again. So then he'd gotten rid of the hogs. So they only had the hogs a couple years, but one of those years, the first year, paid off really well. And then after that, it was like,
It tricked him into continuing.
Yeah, and
People
then after
used
that,
to call
though,
hogs the mortgage lifters.
yeah,
And I think the hogs paid off a lot of mortgages prior to the mid-'70s or early '80s maybe. 'Cause
okay,
I think they were a lot of work, so guys only had so many.
yep,
And they were pretty consistent for probably many years, 30, 40 years. Then all
okay,
of a sudden they've been up and down, and now the big setups, it's
yeah,
one swing after anher, I think.
yeah.
Things have
It
changed
seems
a
like
lot.
just a roller coaster now. Every time
It does, yeah.
Yep.
it seems every
Yep.
time you talk to them, they're either losing money on them or they're doing really good.
Yeah.
It just doesn't
Yep.
seem like they ever plateau off or
And you got to be big. You
Yeah.
can't feed 400 or 500 pigs or 1,000 pigs a year. And
right. Yep.
Randy, do you have any more questions? I have I got a couple things I want to get rolling on, but at first I got to take a leak. So I was wondering if you had one while I bug out.
Well, I have some current ones, like
Okay.
with what we're dealing with right now.
Okay, you go on that. 'Cause
Okay.
I got to take a leak.
So right now, with what's going on in the markets, so you're potentially planning here this week. This won't get aired for a few weeks. Possibly could be done or almost done, or depending on the weather. Are you changing anything for this year?
really, we aren't changing anything. You don't know what to change. I think everything's
it.
up in the air. And
Yeah.
there isn't much a guy can do. We've got our seed bought and a lot of fertilizer on.
Will
So-
storage become an issue? Will we build
Well,
another bin? Would that be
I-
something?
I don't
It might
think
get
we'd build a bin, but
tough to build. To for you to decide right now you're going to build a bin and have it for this fall might be tough to
A
do.
supply.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one thing I have thought of, guy could always bag it if you have to.
That's
Oh,
cool.
that's right.
We've
We're
got
ready.
too much in there. It's hedged, but
Yep.
it's sitting in there yet.
Yep.
And we could fill bags in August or September.
We're in
Yeah.
the same boat. So just the other day, Terry was asking me, he's like, well, do we start bagging now or do we wait? We're kind of in the same boat.
So is that what you would do? You would bag the stuff that's in the bins now?
I think so because you got more time to do
And
it right
it's
now.
dry.
And then
And you'd
The
always
only-
get rid of that first, right? Like you want to get
We
rid of the oldest
probably
stuff
would.
first.
Last year wasn't the best crop, late test weight
Right.
and
That
stuff.
I was just going to say. So
we'd
we're
probably blend it off with next year's
Oh,
crop.
sure.
it's also a unique situation that last year's crop wasn't very good. So we have light.
So blending
Not
it
real
would be
good.
an advantage.
Yeah.
It would be an advantage, yeah.
But I think
Yep.
we would also look at wondering if this is the corn we should bag or should we wait for some hopefully nice normal corn to bag. I think would be another question we'd maybe talk
Because
about.
it doesn't store as well in the bag, right? You can't keep it
I think
in
it
there as long.
stores as good.
Yeah, we just had a couple bags and it seemed to store pretty good. I think
Even
we
without the
would-
fans and stuff. But I suppose here
It's
we have the cold.
Airtight.
Yeah, that's the trouble. If you put it in a bag, we don't want to leave it in there 12 months or 10 months.
Right,
Yeah.
it's a short-term
It'd be a
solution.
short time. So if there isn't a market in the next 8 months, is it going to
Yeah,
be better?
that's kind of
following
weird too.
that? So-
Yep. And I think if you can put it in the bag right, you're okay. It's airtight. There's no oxygen in there, or the little bit that there is, it pulls out or it uses right away. But
Seals it or
For
whatever.
sure, during
But-
the winter when it's cold out, I think. it'd be
yeah.
fine.
But if you have deer come through, deer with antlers, tear bags, vandalism, you can drive along and cut a bag pretty dang easy.
Or
That would be
snowmobiles,
bad.
which
Yeah.
if we bag this year's crop or the crops that's in the bin now, would be close to the yard, so that would be better. But guys have done it in the field, and snowmobiles have gotten them.
When we built the dairy barn, so like '96 when we were building, we bagged silage, and I think that was the only year we ever bagged because then we'd gotten our bunkers. So we'd kind of gone from stave silos to bunkers, and in between there we'd done bags. And I know from experience the handlebars on 4-wheelers, as you're riding between the bags, tear little holes in the bags, and Dad gets really mad because you get a really big spoiled spot.
Bet
And
it
in
does,
a
yeah.
corn bag, that would be even worse than. So Onyx, when he jabs the handlebars of the 4-wheeler in that bag, it'll do more damage than on a silage
And
bag.
I did that when we had cattle. We put corn in bags, wet corn in bags, and then I'd feed through
Oh,
through
sure.
the winter.
Yep.
It was a little different. It wasn't near as nice a baggers or as quick,
Right.
but it
Yep.
worked pretty good. And I think we did that quite a few years. I'd have a silage pile, and then we'd have 1 or 2 bags of wet corn right next to it, and then I'd
Okay.
blend them in the mixing feed wagon and
Yep.
feed some wet corn into the silage.
But we've started already. So, as of right now, as this is being recorded, we started planting some wheat. So we had 1/4, 160 acres that was going to go into wheat, and that was being done for tiling, so that we have time to tile it. And just in the last week, we decided 2 other quarters are going to go into wheat.
You did. We actually talked about it. I haven't had wheat for, I think, probably in the mid '80s. I never made any money with wheat. I only had it a couple years.
You farm
we've
kidney beans.
for the
Yeah.
first time in like
Kidney beans?
from
You
what
farm
I can
those, right?
remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had kidneys, but for the first time ever, he brought up wheat today,
So we
and
we
I
did-
actually thought of it last week. Like, God dang, I don't know a damn thing about wheat, but I wonder. I don't know.
So the one that the field that we're going to tile isn't quite ready. We were just talking about maybe Monday we can get that worked and start planting that one. But one of the other quarters he just finished planting now. Tomorrow we're going to plant the other one. So we're putting in 2 of those quarters to wheat.
So there might be more wheat this year.
Yeah, and
there
then
you go.
And then
Other
we-
people are thinking it, so
Yeah.
you flood the market with
well,
wheat and kill that.
Yeah. So then
It's like hemp
we've
a year
also
ago.
talked. So we switched a few hundred acres. That was soybeans last year and going to be corn, and things could change between now and planting. But we're thinking we're going to do beans on those and pull a few more corn acres out, just for storage reasons. The bins are half full of last year's crop. It's not priced. We don't know if we want to price. We don't even know if we have a market to sell it at. If some of these ethanol plants are still shutting down and closing, so
We talked about that too. Maybe having beans on beans is certainly less cost per acre to plant
Yeah.
beans.
So as of today, I would say a week before we start planting the crop or get it all in, we're planning on 15% less corn for the year,
and-
but we'll see what actually happens in a week when we plant. But
we talked about having some corn on corn, and now we probably aren't going to have very much corn on corn. There just isn't any reason to.
Yeah, we had a 40. It's a little 40 that we'd pattern tiled. It's the sweetest little piece of ground now. There's a pipe every 30 feet across it, and we're going to corn on corn that, and that for sure is out. And we might switch a few more over to soybeans, but that's what we're doing because of this whole bull crap right now.
Yeah. Yep. And the funny part is, it's not that funny when you're a farmer, I guess, but you don't know what is the right choice, right?
Yep.
You just don't know.
Yep. So this is so for DJ and I, this is year 2 of farming.
Yep.
So year 1,
You're sophomores.
yep. Year 1, we didn't plant a kernel of what we farm. We ended up preventive planting everything we had. It was June 1st.
It's too wet, right?
Yeah, it was June 1st, and that's our insurance date for planting corn around here.
Yep.
And we still weren't able to plant yet. So yeah, we took the preventive plant and didn't plant anything. So now our second year we come into corn could very well be $2 at harvest. It's
Right.
two what is it now? $2.60?
Yeah. Around here, yeah.
$3, but
Yeah,
there's
but
a
around
60-cent
here,
basis around here right now,
it's
and
horrible basis.
yeah, so
You can't give it away.
right.
So do you have a cover crop on that land right now? Because you
We
did
did.
plant some in there last year,
We
right?
had yeah. So just on what DJ and I farm, we had we just regular oats and wheat. We didn't do a winter.
And that was after. So you laid pipe. You pattern tiled that stuff.
The 1 quarter that we farm, yet we'd pattern tiled that, and then that one got wheat put on it.
Wheat.
What?
And then we ran a Wishick disc over it early December. Actually, there was 3-4 inches of snow when I did it.
Really?
Yeah.
It wasn't froze?
No, because it was under that blanket of snow, and
Sure.
then it had that wheat there. If
So
you go
you
to
broke that
my
wheat up with a
Instagram page,
Wishick.
there's a picture of us discing that with the Wishick disc.
I missed that.
And then there's it's actually almost my number 1 shot of a Wishick disc running through 6 inches of snow on standing wheat.
My number 1 Instagram post for a long time was ripping with the Challenger in the snow.
Yeah.
In the snow, yep.
And then the other one was we'd planted oats on that one for the cover. That's like a 67 acre piece or whatever, but that one we didn't do anything with.
Oh, you
And
didn't? You left it fallow?
No,
You didn't pipe it?
We put the we
Or
didn't
put the oats, yeah,
Yep,
okay.
just oats. We're just renting it, so
Okay.
we just put the oats on, and then we never worked it last fall. It's a lighter piece of ground, and we're still not sure what we're gonna do to it. I bet this week we're gonna figure it out. So we're gonna either run some. We're
Dan's
gonna run.
figure out a lot of things.
Yeah.
A
in
lot of
That's
things in
right.
the next 10
We're
days.
either gonna run some
yeah.
kind of a vertical tillage, I would assume, over it. I don't know that we want to go in there with any shanks. I don't know that we're gonna want to try to dig it or anything like that.
Because of the smearing.
Yep.
Yep.
Or we're just going to maybe no-till soybeans into it. It's gonna be soybeans, but maybe we'll just no-till it.
Into the dead wheat.
Yep.
Or oats, I mean.
Oats,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Because it was worked nice and smooth before we planted the oats. That's how we planted the oats. We just blew them on and worked them in.
Yep.
So I don't know. I'll tell you next week.
I've got some funny things on the list, stories that I'm going to try and draw out of Dad. So I want to ask about the 1980s.
About the 1980s?
The
I was gonna
1980s. Do you
bring
remember
that up
them?
early.
Oh, yeah. The 70s that I don't remember so good.
There might be some stories there coming later. The 80s, so you said you moved up here in 82.
Yep.
I was born in 84. And then my brother was born in 88. So some of the people listening maybe don't even know I have a brother. And then some of the other people, I get asked about siblings a lot, but it's just me and my brother, 84 and 88.
I did know that.
You knew that?
Yep, I knew that.
He's watched the videos. Well, he's paid attention.
So you
Yeah,
might
he moves.
you might be going here with one of the stories, but I think one of them you were gonna take a salesman job at a car dealership or something. Was that?
Yeah, well, I talked about that. I don't know what year, probably 85 or 6.
That
Yeah.
wasn't 88. Now I thought.
Was it? Maybe it was.
So I thought in 88. This is in my head where the story was at. Was in 88 because Mitch was born, and that was
Okay.
kind of the
The bottom of the-
1988, that was the bottom of the bottom, right? It was a
Well,
drought. 88
our-
was a bad drought.
88 was a bad drought. I think 86 was the worst. 85, 86. And then 87, we had a pretty good crop and the price came up. So I thought, now we're through this. But then we had the drought in 88. And I actually thought, well, we had one good year, but this is going to do me in. It's going to be the end of it.
Right. So that, to me, sounds
So
like the
it
bottom.
might have been 88 when I did.
You applied for a job at the car dealership.
Actually,
Like a real job?
I think it was early spring because then the weather got nice and I
With
started planting. And I
benefits?
thought, well, I don't really
We can
want to sell
do
cars
this
anyway.
Yeah.
So you could always do that later.
Right.
But
Yep.
yeah, in 88 we had the drought and I figured we were done. And then I got out in the first field of beans and we got rain. Oh, it started raining probably last week in August or so. And the beans looked
Which is
terrible
when
and
it
they were
makes
short.
beans.
And it did. We had,
Yep.
well, they weren't good beans, but they were 30 bushels or low 30s.
Yep.
And they were $8 a bushel. So I know that first night I was in the combine, I couldn't get out. I just sat in there.
I
Thinking
would've
this is unbelievable. 30 bushels the acre at $8, and I thought we were going to have
Yep.
12 bushels the acre at $6.
So in the 80s was 30 bushel normal or was that still
a little bit on the
poor?
low side?
It was
here.
still
40
okay.
was kind of the top.
Okay.
I
So
think-
beans
I would
haven't
say-
really. I mean, now we're in the 50s and
Yeah, it seems like
Until I was 30 years old, I remember. Sorry to interrupt here, but I know where he's going with this. Until I was 30 years old, he always told me, "There's not much you can do about beans. They're just going to be 36.
and then they came with the Roundup Ready
If they're on the bottom, they'll be 30. If they're on the top, they're 40. They're just like they're going to be 36.
I
That's
remember
what
a story
beans
one
are.
time saying, "Well, they're yielding 35. What more do you want?"
Yeah, it just is
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah, and
That's
it
what
was that way
beans
for
are.
years until they came with the Roundup Ready 2.
Okay.
They had
and
new
that's
technology, and I think I
They
wouldn't be
saved that
surprised
for
if
their
they-
Roundup Ready too.
Yep, I think they did because they knew the patent was going off Roundup
You can
Ready
say it
ones.
because this podcast is sponsored by Farmers Business Network.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're
Yeah,
going to be in
that's true.
trouble. I didn't print those darn things, the scripts.
You don't have to print those darn things because
Zach's got this all up in.
Sunday.
FBN is so amazing at selling seed, direct chemical. They've got health insurance. They have land financing right now with
Nathan,
interest rates where
Are
they're
you
at.
a member of FBN?
Well, yes, I am. I don't think Zach knew that, so he paid a membership.
You're
later.
both members?
with a hedging account.
man.
We're automatically in.
That's funny.
A couple
So, yeah,
of times, actually. So I bought into the membership long before anybody ever talked to me about doing anything with the Millennial Farmer. I was a member before we ever had any kind of working relationship.
So you're not a sellout.
My dad was a member a year or two before that, unbeknownst to me. So I paid the membership, and then we got into this whole thing and like, well, your membership should be paid because your dad is whatever. But
But
Whatever,
I'm
right?
paying. I'm
It's a
paying.
little
But
good
I'm
old
paying, and then-
miscommunication.
yeah, there's a bunch. But hey,
Speaking of which, have you guys sat down and sorted out your, it's been on the to-do list for like 2 weeks now of the percentages.
yeah, we did that yesterday.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah. So it was only on the list for 13 days.
Okay.
Yeah. No, we're good. But yeah, the podcast is sponsored by FBN, which is the reason that Dad's here tonight, the reason we have this podcast. And where were we going with the story?
80.
Soybean seed and how
Yep.
they hadn't changed for years.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And
Yep.
I thought perhaps they were saving some of their better varieties. till we get
Perhaps-
Roundup Ready 2 is
Perhaps some of the best
Yeah.
genetics were saved for the genetics they really wanted to sell.
to make
Right.
sure
We
can-
don't know
The
that.
ones that weren't coming off patent.
But we know that.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I remember growing seed beans before that. I used to grow seed beans, and it was quite a while before that. But one time I had the bin full of beans, and beans were $5 a bushel, and tech fees were $6 a bushel. I thought, man, I'm growing those beans, and they're going to get more on tech fee than the beans are worth.
Right. Yep.
And that
Wow.
was probably for a few years, actually.
What year roughly was that?
Well, we had beans in the bins behind the elevator in Farwell.
I remember
We did
that.
Those, so I don't.
You
they
hated
were-
that.
It wasn't the
It,
easiest to fill, but we
it
did
was
it
a
a few
pain
years,
in
actually.
the ass. I shouldn't say you
was.
hated that, but
Yeah.
you did it, but it
Yeah.
was a pain in the
Yeah.
ass.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know when that was. Had to be in the 90s, I suppose, right?
Yeah, I mean, I remember that pretty well. So probably mid 90s.
Yeah.
Because I remember being over there with you for a long time. Many times, several times. But the
Yeah.
80s were not good.
80s
They were tough.
They were tough. Yep. 80s were really tough. But in the long run, it probably helped me out I moved up here as young, had some livestock equipment and not a lot of money, and was trying to farm. Well, after I'd farmed here 5-6 years, I had as much money as the neighbors. We were all broke, pretty much.
Nobody had anything.
Yeah, the guys that had money when I
Yep.
moved up here, theirs was gone too. So we're kind of all in a level playing field.
Todd kind of talks to that too, so the guys that had got into it in the 80s, kind of went, so the guys that got into it in the 60s and 70s, they did okay, but they just never, they never leaped like the guys that got into it in the 80s did. And he kind of talks we were kind of in that same boat now. The guys that got into it in the 90s never took off, like maybe now.
Yeah. I watched guys that were, probably 2, 3, 4 years older than me, and when I was in high school, they'd get out of high school, and they were leveraging everything and buying land, and they were doing great. New pickups, new tractors, everything just going like crazy. Well,
And you felt like they were leaps and bounds ahead of you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they were for a little while.
Yep.
But then all of a sudden, with the debt and everything, but then guys that were 3, 4 years younger than me started farming in the mid-'80s. Now they were buying land for a third the price, or
Yep.
it was less, probably 25% the price that some of the land was selling for before that.
Yep.
So it was, it was more timing than management, I would say.
Yeah.
Then.
He kind of talks about that too, so back then you had high interest rates.
18%, yeah, that was.
But
fairly
nothing
high.
was worth
18
it.
is high now?
Yep, 18 is pretty high.
Yeah, you can get way cheaper rates than that through
Yeah.
the FBN financing.
Yeah.
Well, 16% less than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, about that, yeah.
But he
10%
talks
the price.
But he talks on
Yeah.
everything was cheap, but interest was high, but you could write off the interest. Now interest is low, but everything costs a lot, and you can't write off that interest. He talks. I think we were better off back when we were paying a lot for the interest.
Yeah,
because the land was cheap, everything was cheap, and
when farming got good in the 70s, it seemed like fertilizer and seed didn't follow the high prices of crops.
like they have now.
2007, 8, 9, the
Yep.
fertilizer, seed, everything,
Yep.
chemicals, they all went up a lot and followed the price of the commodities.
Right.
I don't
Yep.
know why it didn't do that in the 70s, but it seemed like they stayed fairly flat.
Yep. But the issue is those things haven't come back yet.
Right, yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
So they ramped up with the commodity prices, and then as the commodity prices have gone down, they haven't.
No.
Not near fast enough.
And-
I mean, the same goes with land rent and everything.
Right,
Yeah.
yep. Yeah, if you look at right now, corn's under $3. If you look where rent was 10, 15 years ago,
When corn was at $3,
$3,
yeah, exactly.
there's
Yep.
no comparison.
It was
now.
half.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. It's hard to get them to back down again, and
It is.
they've softened some,
Yeah.
but not
Yep.
near at the rate the commodity prices have.
Right.
Yeah.
Funny how that works.
Yeah. Yep.
Let's get to really important stuff here. I spoke with somebody, a distant relative of mine, a little bit closer to you. He farms down near the area where you grew up farming.
So you talk to Kenny.
Well, his name rhymes with Kenny.
Okay.
It rhymes with Lenny.
Yeah.
That's my cousin, by the way.
Yeah, that's
He's a
cousin.
great
Yeah.
guy.
Yep. He didn't have anything to add to this story, but he said he had always heard that maybe you bought a Chevelle so you could get home from the party that night.
Well, I don't know if I bought it so I could get home from the party that night, but we were out partying. I always liked the Chevelle. So,
You were partying. There was a Chevelle.
yeah.
And you had to get
I knew
home.
it was for sale. But I used to go through cars quite frequently, buy different cars. And
I've got another
Yeah.
question pertaining
Kenny
to that.
was 6 years younger than me, which is good, so he didn't know a lot of things I did. He probably heard about them a few years later.
He heard about him.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
But him and my sister are the same age, and yep, he wasn't involved in some of the things, but I'm sure he heard about them afterwards, probably.
What was that Chevelle?
In 1970, Chevelle SS. The worst one is I had a 1964 Chevelle Malibu SS with a 327.
Oh,
And that
I really wish you still had that.
I really do too. The drive shaft fell out of it when we were out at the quarter mile.
Just It
15
just
years old and my
fell
dad
out.
didn't like it. The next morning when I got up, the car was sold.
It was gone on you.
It was gone. I had the money, but not the car. So,
Did Grandpa fix the drive shaft first, or was it sold
no,
as
he
is?
actually, no, I think it was a pretty simple fix, but he called the guy with the tow truck that bought the car. I don't know
Small
what he
town
thinks
Grandpa
happened,
knew the
but-
tow truck guy. Sure. Those drive shafts, they fall out once in a while.
It was just bad luck where it fell out at.
Yeah, that was bad luck. That reminds me, I should have car owner Corey on the podcast sometime to talk about drive
Could
shaft
you
maintenance.
imagine
9.5.
what Corey would be like?
I think he wouldn't have been upset if I would have been old enough to have my driver's license.
He wouldn't have been asked.
Then,
Yeah.
when you have a drive shaft fall out when you're 13,
worked quite a few years to pay for that car. Yeah, I wasn't 13, I was 14.
Did you own the car then, or
How old did
Dad's
you
car?
have to
I
be
owned
to
the
get
car.
a
No, I
driver's
bought the
license?
car.
You had bought the car.
Yeah, but Dad wasn't happy, so
Executive decision to sell the car.
yeah.
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 That's funny. I bought my first car behind my parents' back as well.
did you take it to the quarter mile and race that?
No.
Oh, yeah,
for
I saw
totally
that car. You
different-
definitely, if you
for
did, it didn't go
totally
well.
different reasons.
I pulled mine out of the trees and got it running again.
Ironically,
Your car? First car?
Truck.
The first-
67 Ford with a 390.
Oh, man, I
little,
wish you still had that.
Little three on the floor. Step side, short box step side.
You both had way cooler first vehicles than Becky.
That thing hauled.
for whatever reason, my parents did not want me driving or to have a license, it was a strange circumstance, but I got a job and got some insurance, paid for insurance, and bought my own car without them knowing, and brought it home, and it actually had a sticker in the rear view window.
Before she said this, I want to let everybody know out there that we still harass her about this. I don't know if
Yes.
Randy knows this. Schluter definitely does.
feel
Neil
it.
harasses her
It
about
had
it
a
all the time.
sticker in the back of the window that said "My Lemon,"
And she bought it.
and
oh,
I
that's
bought-
right. I have heard the lemon car.
I had
Who
no
in the
idea.
hell leaves that sticker in their window when they're trying to sell a car?
Well, here's how it came about. I was sitting at the lunchroom table with my friends, and I'm like, "All right, guys, here's the deal. I got my, I've got the money. I've got the money to pay for my insurance. I need a car. Where do I This was before the internet, really. Like looking up a car for sale. I had no idea what I was doing. Completely on my own.
That makes you sound so old. This was before the internet.
I mean, there
When
was
a hamburger
the internet,
was 10 cents.
There was the internet, but it was like the dial-up version. This was like we had ICQ. That was it. And Dan Ehrman was sitting across the table from me, and he's like, "I've
Shout
got
out
a car.
to Dan Ehrman.
I'll sell it to you." And I was like, "Okay." He's like, "How much money do you have?" And I'm like, $500. He's like, "Sold."
Done.
Done.
And I got that car and drove it for, I don't know, I probably did still drive it for, I don't know, half
You
a year.
had it for a year
Yeah, so it couldn't
before you
have
got
been
the celebrity,
that much
and that
of a lemon.
thing was a tank.
But then that car finally died, and then by then my parents were finally like, "All right, fine, I guess you can have a car." So then I had saved up more money, and my stepdad then helped me get a new car, and he picked out an '86 Chevy Celebrity carbureted, and by then I had actually took a
Carbureted.
year.
Did not have a 327, but it was carbureted.
My 64 was carbureted too. my dad did like that car.
Of course he did.
I think he got a little pressure from my mom is why it got sold.
And by then, I had a year of auto mechanics under my belt, and I was pretty proficient for a girl. After my first car, I went from one end of the spectrum to the other.
That
Went
guy
full
right
circle.
now is having a beer, telling his buddies like, you remember that time I sold that car for $500? What a piece of shit!
It even said "My Lemon" in it. That thing sucked.
Yes, that did happen.
Did you tip an 8-bottom plow over on the road with a Steiger? If you don't remember the story, we can edit it out. But if you do,
Oh, I bet that came from Kenny. two, maybe,
well,
huh?
no, but this
It-
guy's name rhymes with Kenny.
Yeah,
He says he doesn't. He did say in that message he doesn't really know, but he had heard something about that.
Yeah, I don't remember what had happened, but Dad was behind me. We were both at tractors and plows, and I think we were going over a railroad track, and the pins broke on the hitch of the plow, and it dug in.
So the plow dropped?
The plow dropped off the tractor hitch, and it dug in.
Ooh.
Did it drop in on the tracks?
No, it was past her.
Okay, so you got across and then it dropped.
Yeah, and I don't remember, but I know Dad was pretty upset about that, and I didn't really enjoy it either. But I don't know if he thought I hit the railroad tracks.
Not a lot that you
or,
could do about it.
No, and I don't think I hit him too fast. It was just one of those deals, and it was late in the fall. We were pushing in a hurry, and
it was a frustrating fall
sure
anyway.
Probably Kenny heard about that too.
But you had an 8-bottom plow back then?
Well, I don't think it was an 8-bottom.
Okay, I was going to say that would have been pretty impressive.
Yeah, no, it was mounted. I'm thinking it was 5 or 6 bottom.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, and Dad got really upset, and I think Kurt wasn't near as upset, so he probably...
Kurt wasn't?
No, Kurt, well, shit happens, you know?
Yeah.
Yep.
And it happened, and the timing wasn't right.
Right.
Dad wasn't happy. And Kurt
more
tried
than
to settle us down a little bit.
Yeah, more than less just not happy that it happened.
Yeah.
Not necessarily with who it happened to.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
bad
was
timing.
a tough fall anyway, and things weren't good.
Yep.
Dad's patience were short, and he was upset before that happened, and that didn't really help anything at all.
I don't remember if I had ever told this on. I was pretty young, probably, I don't know, 12, 13, and I was plowing with a 40/40. And
4440?
40/440.
Yep.
And
In Kensington?
In Kensington, yes.
Yeah, okay.
and the tractor had died, and I'd put fuel in it before I left. I know I did, pretty sure. But I'd ran out of fuel, but I didn't know that. So I walk home and I tell Dad, like, the tractor died. I think the engine blew up or something. So Dad, him and Joey come up there, all worked up. It's fall, we're plowing up some alfalfa, or I don't remember what it was, but and he's working on it, and here it's out of fuel. So then they always gave me crap that I must have let the lever just click off, and it's full, and took off 12, probably was 10 back then, because I don't think we had the new dairy yet. But anyway, so we're trying to prime the filters on this tractor, and Dad's sitting there, they had the little thumb lever that you'd prime the fuel filters with. And Joey had a pack of firecrackers in his pocket. So he lights a pack of firecrackers and throws them behind Dad. And they go off as Dad's pumping this thing, already mad because he had in his head that he was buying a new engine for this tractor. And then here he's standing there priming the fuel. And the firecrackers go off and Dad jumps. And he was just pissed. And he yells at Joey. We're half mile from home. He's like, just get the hell out of here. Walk home. So Joey walks away and does his normal, walks 100 feet away. And all right, Dad's calmed down and turns around and walks back. And he no longer got within 2 feet of Dad, and there was just one single late firecracker. As soon as Joey got back to him, pow! One single pop went off. And then Dad really let Joey have it, and he's like, "It was a late one. I didn't light anymore."
That was from before I knew any better.
You already chewed my ass for that one. That's still one of my best memories of Dad trying to prime a fuel filter in the field.
I'll bet Steve was happy that night, huh?
Yeah. Almost as happy as when Joey was welding with the stick welder. And he's just a jerk growing up. But
You don't
I haven't
say.
heard about this.
He would throw the end of the welding rod. He's welding, you burn it down to the end.
Yeah.
And then you have the little inch chunk left.
Yep.
He'd always throw that at you. So he
Of course.
throws it at usually me, but Dad was standing there. He throws it at Dad. And Dad chews his ass that could burn someone or hit him in the face or something. And it landed in his shirt pocket. And about the time he got done chewing Joey's ass, it burned through his shirt.
Oh, no.
So then Joey got it a second time really good. But
that's perfect.
that's where things happen, and guys get pissed off, and it's
Yeah.
not necessarily at the person. It's just
It is what it is.
Yeah.
You had a blue Camaro. What year?
Yes.
What year was the blue one?
74.
I still wish you had that as well.
I do too. Yep.
Okay. Did you take this off a corner
have a
by Loon
question.
Lake and rip off the exhaust? It's okay. You can open up now. We're on the Off the Husk podcast.
Which time?
That was a good. How come?
Actually,
Well, I heard you ripped the exhaust off the second time
yeah.
in the same night.
Friend was with me, and we were going. We thought we were a mile over. We were at a party, and here was a 90-degree corner. Well, we knew we couldn't make the corner. We were going way too fast, so we went off
Power
the
through
road.
Yeah. You have no other choice.
We-
You got to
Right.
drive through it.
Cleared the ditch and went out in the field, and we didn't really slow down much. We went back to the party and told some guys about it, and one guy didn't believe us. We said, "Come on, we'll show you." Then we did it again.
He hopped in the car with
That-
He did hop in the car. No, he never has since then. That was
See-
the last time, but
see-
he was having a good time till I came over that hill, and here's that 90-degree corner. And then it
So
it wasn't good. Some friends went back the next day and said we cleared the end rows and everything. We saw where we landed. Cleared the ditch.
Oh,
and
there
the
was
end
standing
rows.
crop.
It was short corn.
Oh, well, then
I would have
it'll-
never done that with
it was-
all corn.
Yeah,
It was a
because the
spring.
growing point was still below the ground.
it was a spring
Sure,
party.
the corn was okay, but
Yeah, this was early summer.
it had side pipes on that Camaro, and the side pipe got wrecked the second time.
But according to Grandpa, the side pipe got wrecked when you were pulling it into the shed.
Oh yeah, that's what happened. I got a little mixed up on that story.
That's good stuff.
The last one. Let's see. Oh, geez, I actually have a couple here.
Actually, I think some of the things I told my dad, he probably didn't believe anyway.
He knew better.
He knew better. Yeah.
You know what? If
Yep.
we're being honest here, some of the stuff Onyx tells me I know better as well.
Sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes ignorance is bliss.
Yeah. Like, what? Because you're kind of proud, too, at the same
Yeah.
time.
You have to pick your battles.
Yeah.
Yep. There was something about you used to set up a sign by Petersburg in the woods directing snowmobiles to go towards the bear.
There was a bear. In the
How
woods
did this?
down
How
by
did this work?
Petersburg.
You got to explain this.
Well, we put up a sign, bear, black bear, BEAR,
Yep.
and then we pointed to the trail that led back to the tree where there was a bear.
Uh-huh.
But it was a centerfold. It was BARE.
It was a black bear.
But the people in Jackson started talking about it. There's a bear in the woods. That's what the sign said, bear in the woods, and pointed back there.
I'm so glad I asked about this one. I almost didn't.
You
I
didn't
kind
know
of forgot
that story?
about that.
I didn't. I
Oh,
didn't
these
know
is all
that.
stuff that Kenny fed you for topics?
No,
No.
just a guy whose name rhymes with Kenny.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. You think you've heard all the stories? That's good.
Those ones came from Kenny. Some of those ones I hadn't heard at all. There was one you pulled the exhaust off was it your motorcycle, and rode around in the school parking lot.
Several of us did. Well, in the town during lunch
Sure,
hour.
he passes the buck. There was a whole bunch of us who did it. It wasn't just me.
There were several of us. Yeah, and nothing really happened. We just got in a little trouble. People didn't like it. So But-
Loud.
During school.
Specifically, the teachers didn't like it.
Most of the other people in the school didn't have an issue with it.
Just the teachers. Which my mom was a school nurse, so she got along with the teachers fairly good.
Luckily, you had friends who
So
also joined in.
It was hard to get away with a lot of stuff with your mom there in
Yeah.
school.
She's in the what do they call it? The lounge, the teacher's lounge room. Like, my Nathan's a good kid. Stop picking on him.
It really wasn't me that took the baffles out of my exhaust. I was trying to catch those other guys to tell them they needed to put them back
Yeah.
Put
in.
them back in.
This is what it sounds like.
Now give me my baffles,
Actually, I don't do.
or I'll
Yeah.
whack you over the head with this broken side pipe I got off of a '74 Camaro.
You know that motorcycle I had, that one that you remember, that 750 triple cylinder, that had pipes on it, and we live 7 miles out of town.
I like how it's not just the motorcycle you remember. It was a 750 triple with pipes.
Probably imported also. You're 11-second quarter mile, but I drove it around town once in a while.
Yeah, that one.
Your mom always said she could hear me when I was about halfway to Jackson. She knew I was coming.
Oh, Nate'll be home in 10 minutes.
Nate's on his way.
No, she lived in town. I was up here.
Anybody else have any questions about, my dad's childhood, FBN, land financing, direct chemical sales?
FBN offers land financing?
They do now, yeah. And you know what interest rates have done. Pretty impressive.
Yep.
They also have seed that is non-GMO, and they have Roundup Ready 1 soybeans and some genetically modified corn now.
Wow.
Yep. Who else?